Antônio Gonçalves Dias was a Brazilian romantic poet, playwright, ethnographer, lawyer and linguist, a major exponent of Brazilian Romanticism and of the literary tradition known as Indianism. He is famous for writing Canção exílio, arguably the most well-known poem of Brazilian literature, the short narrative poem I-Juca-Pirama, the unfinished epic Os Timbiras, and many other nationalist and patriotic poems that would award him posthumously with the title of National Poet of Brazil. He was also an avid researcher of native Brazilian languages and folklore. He is the patron of the 15th chair of the Brazilian Academy of Letters. Biography. Antônio Gonçalves Dias was born in Caxias on August 10, 1823, to a Portuguese father, João Manuel Gonçalves Dias, and a Cafusa mother, the Vicencia Ferreira. After completing his studies in Latin, French and philosophy, he went in 1838 to Portugal to earn a degree in law at the University of Coimbra. There he wrote his most remembered poem, Canção exílio. He graduated in 1845 and returned to Brazil in the same year. He went to Rio de Janeiro, living there until 1854. There he began to write the drama Leonor de Mendonça in 1846 and his first poetry book, Primeiros Cantos, in 1847. It was very well received, and Alexandra Herculano wrote an article praising it. Dias finished his play Leonor de Mendonça also in 1847 and tried to have it performed at the Conservatorio de Música de Rio de Janeiro, but the play was not accepted. In 1848, he wrote two more poetry books, Segundos Cantos and Sextulas de Fray Antão. In 1849 he became professor of Latin and history at the Colégio Pedro II. In 1851, he published his last poetry book, Últimos Cantos. In the same year, he traveled to northern Brazil, planning to marry 14-year-old Ana Amélia Ferreira de Vale, to whom he dedicated many of his most famous and beautiful love poems, such as Se Solos, La Viana, Palinodia, and Retraticao. Ana Amélia was the cousin of Alexandre Teófilo de Carvalho Leal, who in his turn was the brother of Antonio Henriques Leal, a famous Brazilian journalist, writer, musician, biographer and historian known as the Plutarch of Canção. However, the girl's mother did not allow the marriage, quoting Dias' mestizo origins as a pretext. Returning to Rio, he married Olimpia Carolina da Costa later on, having with her a stillborn daughter. Dias divorced Olimpia in 1856. From 1854 to 1858, he went to Europe on special missions for the Secretary of Foreign Affairs. In 1856, at Leipzig, he published his three poetry books in a single volume entitled Cantos, wrote the first four cantos of the epic poem Os Timbiras, and also published a dictionary of Old Tupi. Returning to Brazil, he founded the magazine Guanabara alongside Joaquim Manuel de Macedo and Manuel de Arroyo Porto Alegre in 1849, and went on expeditions to Negro and Madeira rivers as a member of the Scientific Commission of Exploration. In 1862, he returned to Rio de Janeiro, but shortly after went to Europe again. In October 1863, he went to Lisbon, where he translated Friedrich Schiller's The Bride of Messina and some poems by Heinrich Heine. After a short stay in France, he decided to return to Brazil in 1864 in the ship Ville de Boulogne. However, the ship was wrecked on the Bay of Cuma, near the shores of Guimarães, Maranhão. All the passengers but Dias survived the tragedy. He was sleeping in his cabin below decks and did not wake up in time to see what was happening. Thus he drowned. Dias had a nephew who was also a poet, Teófilo Dias. Works: Poetry Primeiros Cantos, Segundos Cantos. Sextlas de Fry Antão, Últimos Cantos, Theatre Pacal, Beatriz en Si, Leonardo Mendonça, Boabdil, Epic and Narrative Poems I-Juca-Pirama, Os Timbiras, Other Meditação, Dicionário da Língua Tupi, Legacy. The city of Gonçalves Dias, founded in 1958, has this name because its territory formerly belonged to the city of Caxias, Dias' hometown. A river in Paraná is named after him, as well as many public squares in Maranhão.